back to my channel. So today I'll be showing you guys how to make a flared dress with open back, and for that I'm going to be using about 3 yards of fabric. So the first thing I'm going to do is to subtract the top part of your dress from the whole length of the dress. Like from your shoulder to your waist, you subtract it from the full length of the dress so that you know what you use for the bottom girder. So for me, I'm going to be using 29. So guys, I've gone ahead and cut out what I'm going to use for the bottom of the dress. So basically you're just subtracting your shoulder to waist. For me, that's 18. I'm subtracting it from the full length of the dress, which is 47. So that's 29 left. So 29 is going to be the bottom of my flare. Next thing you're going to do now is to check your bust measurement. So the bust measurement I'm working with is 42. So divided by 4, that's going to be 10.5. Plus extra 1 inch for seam allowance, that's 11.5. So I'm going to fold my fabric to be 11.5 on the dot. So that's what I have here for the width. So the shoulder to waist I'm working with is 18 plus 1 inch for seam allowance, that's 19. So I'm going to mark that here. And then the next thing I'm going to do, so my shoulder is going to be at this end here. So you're going to mark your shoulder measurement. So the shoulder I'm working with is 16 divided by 2, that's 8. So because it's going to be sleeveless, I'm going to use 7. I'm going to subtract 1. So I'm going to work with 7. So I'm going to mark the 7 here. Then I'm going to come down, mark my armhole, which is 20 divided by 2, that's 10. Mark it up this way. And then the next thing I'm going to do is to give it the curve here. Come down here on your shoulder for the shoulder slant by 1 inch. On that same line here, come down 1 inch. So as you can see, the neckline on this dress is wider. So instead of using the normal 3 inches for the neck width, I'm going to use about 4.2 is what I'll use here. So after that, I'm going to come down by about 3 inches here. And then connect it this way. And then give it a curve, right? And then connect my shoulder slant up this way. So after that, come back here to your waist, and then you're going to divide your waist measurement by 4. So the waist measurement I'm working with is 34. So that's 8.5, right? So 8.5, I'm going to add extra 2 inches to it. So I'm working with 10.5. The extra 2 inches is 1 inch for darting and then 1 inch for your seam allowance on the side. So what I'm going to do now is to connect this line here on the waist to the line of this armhole, because I'm using this this line of my armhole as my chest line. Remember, I divided my armhole into 2, came down here, and I got 10. So I'm using this line of 10 as my bust width, as my chest line. So, and it fits in, remember, is 11.5 that I folded the fabric to be. So now I'm going to cut out this here. So guys, as you can see, I've gone ahead and cut out the front. So I'm going to trace out the back using the front panel. So guys, as you can see, this is the front panel. This is what I'm using to trace the back panel. It's folded into 2, right? So what I'm going to do now is to give my back panel the zip allowance. So I'm going to be using about 1.5 inch for my zip allowance. So I'm going to mark that all the way. So this is my center back here. So I'm going to mark about 1.5 all the way up, because what I have here is too much to be the zip allowance. So I'm going to trim it off a little bit. So guys, this is my zip allowance, this is my front panel. So what I'm going to do now is to trace out this armhole, also trace out this top part, trace out just exactly how this is, trace out the waist up to the bust, the armhole, the shoulder slant. So guys, I've gone ahead and traced out my back panel, right? So what I'm going to do now to get the opening at the back is I'm going to use 14.5. It depends on you. You can measure from your neck, from your shoulder at your back to where how deep you want the opening to be. So I'm going to stop at 14.5 here. I actually want it to be 15, right? But I'm stopping at 14.5 so that when I sew it, I'm using half here before you get to the 15 as my seam allowance. So when I'm done, I will have 15 left. So you see what I'm doing here? I'm starting at this angle at the top here, at the top of the shoulder. So what I'm going to do at this point, I'm going to mark it with a chalk, and then I'm going to connect it down all the way this way and connect it back up. If you have a ruler, that's better. So what you're going to do now is to mark it, give it like a curve. Another thing you can do is, if you want it just the way it is at the picture, on the picture, what you can do is to angle it this way, right? Just move your hand a little bit wider so that when you're done, you can just, like, if you move your hand this way and then you mark it, it will look something like this, and then you just curve it. Right now, you see you're going in, because this is going to be on your side. So if you want it to be open all the way and just have a little fabric at the back, you can just dip your hand into the side and just cut it out and go back up again to your shoulder. But for me, I just want to keep it straight, so I'm going to follow this line, and then I'll have a little more fabric covering my back, if that makes any sense. If you want yours wider, just dip your hand as you're coming to this curve, coming a little more inside of this here, and then go back up again and meet this line and meet this point of your shoulder. So I'm going to cut it out now. So guys, I've gone ahead, and this is the back panel. So I've gone ahead and traced out my lining for it. As you can see, it's not almost the same color, but I'm trying to show you guys what it would look like. So if you want to use a lining, better to use color that goes well with your fabric. So this is what it looks like. I've traced lining for this. I have 2 pieces for my back panel, 2 pieces of lining for each side, and then I have 1 lining which is for just the front. So what I'm going to do now is to go to the sewing machine and join the lining together and join the top together before I now join all of them together. So guys, what I did here, this is the front panel. I've gone ahead, joined the back panels to the front. So I also did the same thing for the lining. So what I'm going to do now is to face my fabric, the main pattern, on the right side, face my lining on also the right side. So the right side is facing each other. As you can see, where I have my seam is here, and then when I have my seam is also on the outer part. So what I'm going to do now is just to make a stitch all the way from the armhole, join it together, and then also come back from this back panel, make a stitch all the way, go back to the neckline, come back again. Just make a stitch all the way around. The same thing goes for the sleeve. So guys, I've gone ahead and joined the neck and the armhole side too. So what I'll do now is just to move it around from the front panel. I'm going to put my hand in on one side of the sleeve, right, and bring it out. So I'm going to put my hand, bring it out. And then after that, I'm going to iron it. So guys, I've gone ahead and ironed it. As you can see, this is what the inside looks like. This is the back. I've ironed everything. So what I have to do now is to go and put in my dart. So basically, I'm going to fold this into 2. Check my bust nipple to nipple measurement. Whatever I have. So for me, it's about 4 inches. So what I'm going to do is to come down here at the end. So guys, I'm going to mine is 8 inches divided by 2 is 4. So I'm going to place it here. This is the 4 inches. I'm going to add half an inch to it for seam allowance. So this is it here. So I've marked it here. So what I'm going to do is to mark from my shoulder and come down to about 12 inches, right? So 1 inch before your chest line is where you're going to stop. So my chest line is about 11 here, so I'm going to stop at 12. So my dart will stop here. So I'm going to transfer this on the other side too. So when I go to sew, I'm going to pick up 1/2 inch on each side, and then this is going to be my dart. So I'm going to transfer it on, do the same on the other side. And then for my back, remember I've cut out most of the back here, so I don't have any fabric to go up for my darting to go up. So what I'm going to do is just fold it into 2 and then place my dart here, narrow it all the way up to this angle. Do the same on the other side. Fold my dart, narrow it up to this angle. I know why I'm emphasizing on this angle, because sometimes due to this curve here, if your dart doesn't reach up to this angle, sometimes you might have this curve here, it might not just fall on your body, it might just be floppy. So but if you try to put your dart on this side and then try to angle it on this dart, it helps to hold it down. So that's basically it. After that, you're going to join, when you're done putting your dart, you're going to join the 2 sides together. So there are 2 ways to join the 2 sides together. So I'm going to turn it to the wrong side. So if you want, you can just hold it together this way and join your 2 sides. That way you will have your seam visible. But if you want everything to be neat and hidden inside the lining, what you can do is pick up your fabric this way, right? And then you're going to sew. Remember, you already know that is 1 inch that you left for your seam allowance. So what you can do is just sew in 1 inch of the seam allowance, even on the lining. Sew it from the cloth to the lining, and then when you're done, all the stitch will be inside, because this lining will also be folded in. So you have something like this, but then the stitch will be inside. So guys, what I'm saying is you can go ahead and just make a stitch on this way, and then you have this rough side. Maybe you use your English weaving to finish up the end. But if you don't want to do it that way, what you can do is just, if you don't want to have any rough side left, so what you can do is sew in this one first and then come up to the lining and also sew the lining down. That way all the stitches will be on the inside of this cloth. So I'm going to do mine and then join the flare at the bottom. So guys, I've gone ahead and joined together to the main bodice. So what I'm going to do now is to put in my zip. So as you can see, I'm using just a short skirt zip, about I think 12 inches. So what I'm going to do is to put in my zip at the back here, and that will be all. So guys, the zip is done. This is the zip here. So that's all. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Bye.